When America was first colonized by the Europeans, there wasn't enough labor to work the fields, tend the crops, or build infrastructure. For a time, Americans used indentured servitude as a way of fixing this problem. Indentured servants were people who escaped political or religious persecution and worked under another person in America for freedom, usually for 7 years. In the early 17th century, a Dutch ship carrying African slaves arrived in America. No matter the age or condition of the slave, they were all put to work. Large farms with cash crops, such as cotton or tobacco, were where slaves worked most often. If they had unique skills, they were spared working in the fields. Slaves didn't earn much money, so they rarely bought new clothes. The food that their master gave them weren't even good enough for animals to eat. They lived in overcrowded shacks with dirt flooring, which often carried diseases and illness. Slaves were allowed to marry, although their families would later be ripped apart by being auctioned off or their children taken away from them. Not all slave owners were the same. Some slave owners considered their slaves as family, as it was a huge investment. Other slave owners abused their slaves, beating them and starving them. This wasn't illegal. Slaveholders were usually white businessmen or farmers. Middle-class farmers had 3 to 4 slaves, while high-class families had 1 or 2 house servants. Slaves were often isolated from the family. Wealthy slaveholders made a living off selling slaves, keeping them in good condition and selling them for high prices. In the 1830s, the abolitionist movement began. People who were against slavery or were enslaved fought back. By the end of the Civil War, the 13th and 15th Amendment was passed, abolishing slavery.